I'm gonna be honest with you, I completely made up that word. That's not a real word, but it is what this video is about. And what I'm trying to do with that word is describe a kind of specific sort of creepy phenomenon I've noticed on the internet. Essentially, they're memes, but they're not, well, they're not funny, but you can find them funny. They're kind of cursed, but also very entertaining. I've got a lot of them here. You'll probably see them just floating by. I won't describe specifically the ones showing up, but they'll just be here. And I think they're going to give you a good idea of what's going on here, or what I'm trying to talk about. What I really want to talk about with these is just something I find interesting. It's just a personal thing. I'm just going to be going on about nothing that is not important. And if you're not interested in this thing, okay, sorry, I wasted your time. This is really sad. But if you are just interested in dumb nuance about weird phenomenons on the internet and in life, this is what I'm doing. I want to kind of talk about what draws us to these kinds of like weird sorts of media and art, and kind of get a little take on how this phenomenon gets created, because this is not the only kind of phenomenon that works this way. I'll get into it later, don't worry. I've got some defined terms. I'm going to go overly deep into it because I'm dumb and this is how YouTube works. Something that these things do that I'm calling unmemes, but like I said, I made up that word and I'm gonna define it in the video and kind of go into its philosophy. Something they do is replace what would essentially be a punchline in a joke or ironic with a scare line, I guess you could call it. Something, or more like a discomfort. They remove a punchline from a joke for something else. And if you find that funny, you find it funny because it's like ironic, or like you're removing what you expect. It's subversion, but essentially it's that. And that's what we're gonna talk about. Joining me along our ride about this stupid thing that I just made up and made a video about anyway because I saw some weird memes online is my good friend Scallybob. They are going to be here for the entire video and helping me critique these and talk about them. He's got some great ideas. It was actually his idea to do this video, and so just a round of applause. He's got a Patreon, I think. And so unmemes, as I'm gonna define them, because like I said, I'm making up this word, is a meme that's meant to cause like discomfort. It's not meant to be funny, and well, it kind of is. But like I said before, you can find them funny, but what an unmeme is trying to do to the meme format is take something familiar and deconstruct it until it's unrecognizable, or until it's like almost scary. These are memes that instead of humorous implications, they're supposed to be horror implications. Other forms of unmemes essentially take something you might be familiar with that isn't a meme, like media or a song, and then distort them and change them and deconstruct them into something that is uncanny, uncomfortable, and unfamiliar, even if you can see the remnants of what you did know in there. This discomfort is kind of integral to the intrigue of unmemes. Unmemes are a form of art deconstructionism. Like, as long as you subscribe to the idea that memes are art, like Shia LaBeouf, and you can put the thing there where he's like, yeah, they're art when he was in Hot Ones.
Are memes art? Definitely. Yeah, anything that moves you is art. Yeah.
As long as you subscribe to the idea that memes are art, then unmemes are deconstructivism, or deconstructionism. I'm going to talk about them both later. They're technically different, but they're also kind of the same.
White people be like, black people be like.
So why don't we go a little deeper with this? I mentioned before about deconstruction, deconstructivism, deconstructionism, decomposition. On YouTube, this is a video essay on YouTube.com. I'm a professional. Azathoth compels me to go deeper into a subject for no reason. Thank you, my Lord and Savior, Big Joel. Now, I won't go into all of the philosophies about what, like, Derrida wrote about deconstructionism, but I want to talk about some of the broader concepts of it and how it's been used and how it applies to what I'm saying here and how, like, unmemes are deconstructionism. Deconstructionism is sometimes referred to as, like, deconstructivism when it's specifically referring to an art movement rather than just, like, a philosophical movement. I know it's confusing, try and follow. I'm trying to figure it out as I go, essentially making up a new word. Art which follows this kind of philosophy or movement or ideal is art that's trying to get at the heart of what it means for something to be art, or for what it means for an art piece to be what you see it as. That sounds like obvious, but essentially, if you take a piece of art that is supposed to be a person's face, how do you know that's a person's face? That seems stupid again when I say that, but if you start taking pieces away, how long until it's not a face anymore? Or how long until it's not, some would say, how long until it's not art anymore? But isn't that, okay, yeah, so that's what deconstructivism is essentially getting at the heart of. It's making art that makes you question that. And essentially, which I will say a lot, I'm gonna say essentially so much in this video, but essentially, what that is it's an artistic form of the Ship of Theseus sort of philosophical quandary. And the Ship of Theseus is essentially like a sort of philosophical question that asks, you know, say you got a boat, right? And you replace boards from, like wooden boards from the boat, one by one, until there's no pieces left of what the original one. At what point is it a new boat? Is it ever a new boat? Is it always the same one because it's the whole? That's the question that the Ship of Theseus is asking, and deconstructivism is doing that, but with the creation of art. What I want to say is that unmemes are a part of a process of meme deconstructivism. Unmemes aren't just themselves deconstructivist art in meme form, but they are a sort of end product of a series of iterative deconstruction. Deconstructivism is pushing art, like piece by piece, changing things, taking things away, deconstructing it over and over again to see when does it become unrecognizable as either the subject matter, like the face I said earlier, or until it's unrecognizable as art. Which reminds me, how do you feel about 6.5 hours of audio dementia? I think you'd really like it. Give it a listen, fall asleep to it. Trust me, it's super relaxing, my dude. This set of albums, which has 6 parts to it, essentially, where things change, is a set of songs meant to imitate sort of 1920s or 30s, like, dance hall music. What it does is each section of the 6 sections has the same songs in it, but each new section distorts and changes parts of these songs slowly over time, like little by little. Each section changes it more, to the point where by the 5th and 6th ones, you can recognize the songs kind of as, like, you see parts, or there's like, you're like, oh, I remember that little part of the tune, but the rest is just completely foreign, and it's almost like you're like only seeing little bits of what it used to be. And all these things I've been talking about, the deconstructionism and how they sort of take apart something to try and get at what it means to be what it is, the caretakers everywhere at the end of time is an example of the type of deconstructionism I really want to get into in this video, and that's iterative deconstruction. When you take apart little pieces of something that have already been taken apart by someone else. You deconstruct something that's already been deconstructed, and people pass these back and forth. Memes themselves just do this as they work. They're passed across the internet over and over again, and that's really what I'm going to talk about here.
We got a burger. Cheese on.
Have you seen this one before? What about this one? You've probably seen those. Yeah, they're pretty common. They're really good. How about this one? If you said you saw that one, you fucking lied because I made it. Obviously, memes change over time. Sometimes they borrow jokes and punchlines. Sometimes they copy exact formats, but then give their own spin on them. And sometimes it's essentially just like repetition of the same joke, but with different themes or words. Other times they sort of distort themselves just a little bit to kind of subvert what's going on. There's kind of a process to the iteration of meme evolution. Memes generally start with a base meme or a meme idea, and then that meme gets iterated on through a proliferation of changing the joke or the punchline, but using the same exact format. And then after that, the same meme will turn into a subversion of itself, where you kind of make an ironic joke or change the ending to not be what they expected. And then after that, you get to something I call the absurd version of it, where the whole thing is an ironic flip of what it was into something unrecognizable joke-wise, but it's still funny because it's nonsense. Essentially, it turns it into nonsense. So you'll get, haha joke, haha different joke, haha you weren't expecting this joke, and then haha nothing makes sense anymore. That's the kind of general iteration of memes. They get deconstructed to change how they work and what you're laughing about, essentially, because, it only takes, 30 minutes for a meme format to get old, and so the next 30 minutes you gotta make the new one or change what it was. Essentially, each stage, like I said, it's a further deconstruction of it, and it further obfuscates what the original meme was meant to be or where it came from. Generally, you don't need to know where the source of a meme came from for it to be funny to you. And the fact that you may not know kind of obfuscates further the base, or like I was saying earlier with art, the more levels of obfuscation that exist to your understanding of the meme, the further deconstructed it is. You could start off with a scene from SpongeBob. Well, that's a scene from SpongeBob. Then you turn it into a meme. That's one level of deconstruction you've already done. And then you go through the process I mentioned earlier. And this thing is another very important aspect to the evolution of memes, which is their referential nature. So the reason this is important is because the way that they reference other things, either other memes or other media or other jokes or whatever, is in itself a part of the iteration. And so every layer you add of iteration is a part of the deconstruction, is a part of the evolution, it's a part of the joke, the humor, and the more of these you pile on, the kind of further from the joke you essentially get, which is kind of like how if you show like a boomer or an old person a Zook meme or whatever fucking format you're using, then they may have no fucking clue why you find that funny, because all of the layers of referencing and iteration and deconstruction you get, you've been there, you've been on the memes, the memes, you're up to date. But them, they've probably never even seen the source material that the original thing came from, or any of the steps involved, and they have no clue what you're talking about. That's kind of how this humor gets built. Humor itself is always iterative. So a stand-up comedian who's making jokes is making these jokes based on probably a history of joke making. So jokes from the 1900s are using a baseline humor that gets built on for the 1940s, which gets built on over and over again until you get to today, who are making jokes whose humor requires their audience to at least have some humor knowledge, like maybe not seen those things, but what they find funny is essentially built up through iteration the same way. Memes are like this, but at fucking hyperspeed. This is like every single day a new complete joke iteration is happening over and over again, and this is for years until you get like an amalgamation of iterative deconstruction to the point where nothing makes sense anymore, and what you find funny is just a can of soup spilled over on the floor on your carpet, and that's a meme. But this cycle of iteration is a never-ending process of referential humor and absurdity and offshoots over and over again, just combining and mashing onto each other into a fractal of meme concepts that none of us can possibly comprehend. It's batshit, and I love it. I don't know, dog. This is like philosophy. Like, you thought this was a dorky throwaway Halloween spooky haunted episode. Ooh, capitalize on the holiday. Nah, son, dude, I've been cooking these ideas for a while, ever since I first got into this whole weird meme concept that I enjoy but don't find funny, because nothing makes sense anymore. We live in hell. I gotta just deconstruct the shit out of everything because YouTube requires it for me to enjoy what I'm doing and live. Memes are deconstructive and okay, so all this nonsense brings me back to just kind of unmemes as a concept. What separates these from your average run-of-the-mill meme? Why am I creating a whole definition and category for them above and beyond just absurdist or subversive irony memes? Well, to answer that question real quick, I'd like to get at the point of basic level memes. Like, what's the point of a basic meme? We don't need to really get into the weeds here and go super complex. Just, what are they there for? They're there for entertainment, essentially, and generally for humor purposes. You're supposed to laugh at them, supposed to be jokes, they're supposed to have punchlines. And unmemes, in a sense, as I'm defining them, are meant for entertainment. And some of them are funny, but their purpose isn't necessarily humor. So why are unmemes still compelling? Like, why are we interested in them? Or at least I am. I guess maybe you're not. You may have no clue what I'm fucking talking about. But what makes them effective as entertainment if there's not really a correct joke component outside of ironic humor or whatever? So humor isn't at the core of unmemes. I would say they're kind of like slasher films in how they can be funny. You could find the gruesomeness, the over-the-top gruesomeness funny. You could find the horrible acting funny. You could find the bad way that it's shot or the stupid decisions of the characters. You could find all that funny. But the purpose and core of slasher films is not to be funny. But they're still entertaining either way. And many people, or most people I would say probably, who watch lots of slasher films and really enjoy them, aren't trying to get a laugh when they watch them. They just kind of want to watch them to see what happens. They want to see where they go with it. They know a bunch of people are going to die, and if they read the name of the movie, they probably get how, but they kind of just want to see what gets done. Like, what happens. You just want to see it. It's not really so deep, but the draw and incentive for that entertainment, it's there. Something very similar is happening with unmemes. People will find them entertaining and interesting, and they're drawn to them just to see what happens, just to see how they're done. Or at least that's why I'm drawn to them. Much like bad copy-paste horror movies and slasher movies, unmemes tap into something completely divorced from humor and horror alike, while still sort of synthesizing the parts that draw you in to both. Just like with slasher films, with unmemes, or horror-based memes like this, you want to know, how are the bad things gonna happen? Will they upset me? Will I be uncomfortable? How will it make me feel in general? It's just this general curiosity. This is the same kind of curiosity that causes people to be enthralled by true crime. Or even the same kind of curiosity that might have a 14-year-old browsing corners of the internet that no one was meant to see, that he could never have seen anywhere else. Horrific, real stuff that a normal life would have most people completely oblivious of. Stuff the average person just wouldn't even come into contact with, which is what makes it so alluring. You're a teen. You're learning new and complex things every day. The reality of the world is just barely peeking its head above the horizon. You desperately want to see more. You might see something you didn't want to see, but isn't that the point? That's why you're doing it. Pushing boundaries, especially your own. Anyway, imagine that feeling, but like with memes, so it's like not as big of a deal. It's just morbid curiosity. What kind of weird iterative horror could be wrought through memes or a joke? Will the images stick in my mind? Will I be thinking about this? Will it scar me? Or will it just be kind of cool? You never know until you click. I mentioned earlier that Unmemes aren't the first of their kind to do this sort of thing on the internet. They're not the first sort of purposely created, ironic sort of art that draws you in with just how weird and creepy it is, or uncomfortable. Most of the examples I've been showing you over here have been from more recent, and they've been from sort of Facebook meme pages. Shouts out to Pains of Hell Wellness Clinic, and Twitter, and random image boards. But this kind of dark, uncomfortable, deconstructivist meme sort of thing has existed a few times before. Obviously, random, absurdist level memes can be dark sometimes, and they can be put themselves into it, but I'm talking about something that became its own thing that uses this same sort of style. So allow me to read something I wrote, because there's no way that I could actually remember this proper information while staring at the camera. Sorry, I'm going to be looking down. I know, immersion breaking. What are we going to do? Dolan Comics, originally created on the Finnish image board Kuvalauta, I think I pronounced that right, as Aku Anka. It was created in early 2010. Dolan Comics began to spread across Facebook, which is essentially what that was, but it was whatever. And other English language image boards like 4chan, EU, during 2011 and 2012. They were mainly characterized by Dolan, a poorly drawn version of Donald Duck, and misspelled words and incredibly dark or unsettling jokes. Heavy scare quotes on the jokes because it's not funny. It's not funny. Since Dolan is a psychotic killer and sexual abuser who usually ends up doing something horrible by the end of the comic, which is supposed to be the punchline or just the weird fucked up line. Like I said, these comics have the structure of a joke, but instead of the punchline after the setup, it was just, what the fuck, you would usually say. They were sadistic and uncomfortable and not really jokes or humor, but that's not really what I was trying to get out of it when I was looking at them anyway. I don't see them as jokes. These almost traumatized me in my teens because they felt so fucked up using familiar cartoon characters and having them do really shitty stuff, and with the express purpose of being funny, which that in itself was another layer of oh, this is fucked up, because it's supposed to be funny and it's really shitty fucked up things, which the feeling that it gives where you're like, oh, I'm uncomfortable because of all that things I've said, added to the intrigue, made me want to see more. I know it makes no sense. I know it's crazy. I know there's plenty of you who will relate and plenty of you who won't relate, but I'm trying to explain it as best I can. Give me a break, okay? I'm just a lonely YouTuber with my friends. And I know that sounds silly and ridiculous, but look, art is subjective. I don't know, quit making fun of me or I'll call your parents. Well, yeah, that's it, isn't it? There's nothing really specific I can say about Unmemes that showing a bunch of them and making you experience them and going on a random rant that's maybe or maybe not related to what I'm talking about. I mean, comparative analysis is the best way I can talk about this, so that's why I'm talking about deconstructivism, and that's why I'm saying that this is an iterative deconstructive process, and then showing them, even though that's probably the better way to do it, you can't really just describe them as their thing. You have to describe what they do to you and why you are interested in them, and that's kind of how you get them as their own subcategory. Their subcategory doesn't exist as a definable trait, it just exists as a grouping. The effect they have on those interested in them is essentially the definition. Like I said, it's a form of art expression. It's not degradation, it's not perversion, like some art snobs might say. It's just deconstruction. And memes are art. Essentially, just asking questions about what we think about them, just in a simpler format. I'm sure the average meme creator is not thinking, oh boy, I'm sure deconstructing this art. Essentially, it's just asking questions about the things we assume. Anytime something is taken for granted as true or correct, some Chad will come along and deconstruct it. It's the basics of philosophy, and memes themselves are not a meme. You don't want to be a virgin traditionalist, do you? Classic YouTube outro. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed it, let us know. If you have no clue what the fuck I'm talking about, let me know. I said the fuck word a lot in this video, but it's fine, I don't care. I thought at first that maybe we would like do that less on the channel, but I can't. I mean, when I follow a script, I can do it more because I don't put fuck in my scripts very often. But thank you for watching. This was really fun. We kind of made it randomly in spur of the moment for Halloween, because I was thinking about these weird sort of like not funny scary memes that I thought were really awesome, and I love them even though they're stupid and bad. I'm sure like no one's going to relate to this, but whatever, it's fine. Anyway, like and subscribe like they tell you to. You gotta do that. You're required by law now. Otherwise, Skelly Boy's gonna come and hit you with his fist that can't close. I bought my best friend for like $40. If you have anything to say about how horrible this the idea of Unmemes is, let me know. And if you want to tell me what I should do on my own channel, I am always open to that. I am at your whims. Just tell me what I'm supposed to do. Please, God.
Eternal damnation.